The alarm went off the way all bad things do, politely at first, then louder, then with paperwork implied. The human cargo pilot didn't panic. He sighed. He was already tired, already late, already negotiating with a ship that liked to interpret routine turbulence as a personal challenge. He reached for the console, muttering about calibration drift and the kind of day that started with spilled coffee and ended with incident reports. The turbulence hit harder than expected. A warning chimed. Another chimed. Something in the hold shifted with a sound like an offended filing cabinet. The pilot winced and thumbed the stabilization toggle, eyes flicking across readouts that insisted everything was within acceptable parameters, which was ship language for technically fine, emotionally concerning. That's when the docking clamps engaged. He froze. No, 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 he said, not loudly, because shouting at machinery never helped. The clamps were standard issue, safety restraints meant to keep cargo from becoming opinions during rough patches. They weren't supposed to activate unless the ship detected catastrophic movement. The ship, apparently, had opinions. In the hold, the fox-eared diplomat felt the floor hum. The hum became a pressure. The pressure became certainty. Bands of force settled around her with deliberate firmness, pinning her upright, distributing weight along her spine and shoulders, locking her limbs in a position that felt intentional, purposeful. She inhaled sharply and steeled herself. Captured. Every cultural briefing she'd ever received lit up at once. Humans were unpredictable. Humans were dominant. Humans used restraint as punctuation. She braced for pain, for sharp lessons delivered without explanation, for the kind of suffering that was meant to teach obedience. Her tail flicked once, then stilled. She lifted her chin. If this was a test, she would not beg. On the bridge, the pilot stared at the readout and felt his stomach drop through 3 decks. Oh. Oh no. He toggled the switch. Nothing. He toggled it again, slower, as if the ship might appreciate manners. Still nothing. The clamps had gone into full engagement, which meant they were doing exactly what they were designed to do, and refusing to listen to anyone who sounded flustered. He keyed the intercom. Hey, hold occupant. This is the pilot. There's been a, safety activation. The diplomat's ears twitched. A voice. Casual. Calm. This was worse. Pain delivered calmly meant it was supposed to last. I am restrained, she said evenly. Proceed. The pilot blinked. Proceed with what? Right, yes, that's the safety part. Look, I'm really sorry about the grip. It's supposed to be snug. Secure. Prevents injury. Snug? She repeated. The word translated poorly and landed somewhere between tight and intimate. Her pulse quickened. So this was how humans justified it. She waited for the next step. I'm working on a release, he added quickly, because silence felt dangerous. Just need to confirm there's no spinal misalignment and that pressure distribution is even. Her breath caught. Pressure distribution. Even. Methodical. She clenched her jaw and nodded once, even though he couldn't see it. I am maligned. Great, he said, relief spilling into his voice. Great. That helps. The system won't disengage if it thinks you're off-center. Liability thing. Liability. He spoke as if the universe ran on forms and signatures. The clamps adjusted minutely, responding to her micro-movements, spreading the hold along her torso in a way that was supportive. Not painful. Not punishing. Startlingly considerate. She swallowed. This restraint, she said carefully, is elaborate. He laughed, short and embarrassed. Yeah, we over-engineer. It's rated for a bunch of body plans. Comfort first design. No sharp edges, adaptive padding. You know. She did not know. Comfort first was not a phrase associated with capture. Her tail betrayed her, flicking again as the clamps made a soft whir and eased just a fraction, as if checking in. On the bridge, the pilot watched the comfort meter settle into the green. Okay, that's better. Sorry about the initial clamp. It can be a bit assertive. Assertive. Her ears burned. You call this assertive? Well, compared to the old models. Those were. He stopped himself. Oversharing never helped. Anyway. You shouldn't feel any pain. If you do, say something. The system responds to feedback. Feedback. She almost laughed. And if I resist? He frowned at the console. Resist what? The restraint, she said. Oh. No, don't do that, he said immediately, earnest to the point of panic. It'll just tighten to compensate. It's not meant for struggle. It's meant to hold you safely. If you need more room, I can adjust the grip. Adjust the grip. The phrase landed like a spark. She inhaled slowly, waiting for the bite that never came. The hold remained firm but gentle. It cradled her weight. It anticipated her balance. It was, infuriatingly, respectful. You trapped me, she said. Accidentally, he said, the word tumbling out. I swear. I mean, not that it matters right now, but this wasn't. I didn't intend to restrain anyone today. Or ever. There's a protocol. Of course there is, she murmured. He rubbed his face. Look, I'm going to run a diagnostic. It'll take a minute. In the meantime, just relax. The harness is designed to support you. Harness. Support. Relax. None of this fit. She searched her memories for a precedent and found none. The clamps hummed softly, as if agreeing with him. What will you do to me? She asked, because the question demanded to be asked. He paused, surprised. Do to you? Yes. He checked the clock, then the checklist, then spoke with the careful honesty of someone who had learned the hard way that assumptions caused fires. I'm going to make sure you're comfortable. Then I'm going to fix the ship so this doesn't happen again. Then I'm going to file a report apologizing for the inconvenience. Inconvenience. The word hit harder than any imagined blow. Her ears drooped, confusion warring with something dangerously close to relief. The clamps adjusted again, easing pressure at her shoulders, as if responding to her posture. And then, he added softer, I'm going to ask if you're okay. She closed her eyes. This was not how captivity was supposed to feel. She had expected pain. What came next was something far more unsettling. A human who trapped by accident, restrained by design, and treated control like a responsibility instead of a right. The clamps finished their micro-adjustments with a soft, almost polite hum, the kind of sound that suggested cooperation rather than domination. The Vulpine woman noticed immediately. The pressure didn't increase. It redistributed. Weight shifted away from her wrists and shoulders, settling along her center of mass like invisible hands that knew exactly where not to linger. She hated that part most. You are correcting the restraint, she said, testing the words. Yeah, the pilot replied. Auto-calibration kicked in. It tries to find the most comfortable configuration for whoever's inside. Species agnostic. Well, mostly. Some tails confuse it. Her tail twitched on instinct. The clamp responded by loosening around it a fraction, as if embarrassed. She stiffened, expecting punishment for the movement. None came. Stop that, she snapped. The clamp paused. The pilot frowned at the console. Stop what? It, she said. The adjusting. Oh. Right. Sorry. It's reading stress indicators. Heart rate, muscle tension, that kind of thing. If you're uncomfortable, it tries to compensate. By holding me tighter? By holding you better, he corrected, then winced. I mean, securely. Supportively. You know. She did not know. Her species restraints were meant to remind the restrained of their place. They bit. They burned. They taught lessons through discomfort. This thing felt like it was paying attention. Worse, it was responding. I expected pain, she admitted, voice carefully neutral. Yeah, most people do, he said too quickly, as if this was a familiar problem. I mean, not pain, exactly. They expect something. Look, I can dial down the grip if it feels too much. Too much. The phrase lingered. She shifted again, deliberately this time. The clamps reacted instantly, firming in some places, easing in others, maintaining balance without increasing overall pressure. The sensation was deeply unsettling. Efficient. Considerate. It is firm, she said. Firm's good, he said automatically, then coughed. Structurally speaking. She almost laughed. Almost. You speak of restraint the way my people speak of armor. Same principle, he said. You want it to fit right. Too loose and you get hurt. Too tight and also hurt. There's a sweet spot. Sweet spot. Her ears flattened. And you are adjusting me toward it. He froze. Adjusting the system, he said quickly. Not you. You're fine. You're fine. The clamps gave another gentle whir, settling into what the console proudly labeled maximum comfort mode. The pilot's eyes widened. Oh. It did that on its own. What does that mean? She asked. It means the system thinks you're under stress and is prioritizing comfort over immobilization, he said. Which is fine. Totally fine. It'll still hold you safely. Safely. The word echoed. She tested the restraint again, slower this time. The hold followed her movement, firm without resistance, like a practice partner matching a step. Her breath hitched despite herself. This is not a punishment device, she said, more statement than question. No, he said. God, no. It's a safety harness. Harness. The translation flickered, offering several interpretations, none of them aligning with her expectations. You restrain for safety. And insurance, he added. And regulations. Mostly regulations. She stared ahead, processing. If I were resisting capture, this would be ineffective. It's not meant for capture, he said. It's meant to prevent lawsuits. She didn't know what a lawsuit was, but it sounded powerful. The clamps shifted again, adjusting the angle of her hips, easing pressure she hadn't realized she was bracing against. The sensation was intimate in a way she hadn't prepared for. Not invasive, but attentive. She swallowed. You are very concerned with my comfort, she said. He glanced at the readout. I mean, yeah. If you're not comfortable, the system flags it as a failure. A failure, she repeated. Yeah. Design flaw. Humans don't like building things that hurt people unnecessarily. Unnecessarily. The word landed hard. She flexed her fingers. The clamps loosened just enough to allow it, then held steady. She felt secure. Supported. Annoyingly so. And if I asked you to release me, she said. He hesitated. I'd try. I mean, I am trying. But until the diagnostic clears, the system won't disengage. It's a whole thing about spinal safety. Of course it is. He sighed. Look, I know this probably feels invasive. Being held like this. But I promise there's no intent behind it. No dominance thing. It's just procedure. Procedure. She closed her eyes. Her entire understanding of humans had been built on assumptions of excess aggression, excess desire, excess control. This was restraint in every sense of the word. The clamps softened again, just a touch, responding to her lowered tension. She hated how good it felt. You keep adjusting, she said quietly. Yeah, he said. You're calming down. She opened her eyes sharply. I am not. The console beeped. The pilot winced. The system disagrees. There was a pause, heavy with unspoken things. Then, despite herself, she let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. The clamps responded by easing pressure along her ribs, allowing a fuller inhale. Her tail flicked once, then settled. This restraint, she said slowly, is considerate. He laughed, relief threading through it. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said about it. She shook her head, disbelief warring with something dangerously close to curiosity. She had expected pain. She had prepared for suffering. Instead, she found herself held by a system that cared about balance, comfort, and consent by design. And that, somehow, shocked her far more than pain ever could. Silence stretched, not uncomfortable so much as charged with things either of them had planned to say. The clamps held steady, no longer adjusting, as if satisfied with their work. The Vulpine woman was the first to break it. "You are waiting," she said. "Yeah," the pilot replied. "I'm waiting." "For what?" "For confirmation." Her ears angled forward. "Confirmation of what, exactly?" He cleared his throat. "That you're okay. Or that you want something changed. Or that you don't. The system won't let me alter engagement levels without consent." Consent. The word translated cleanly this time, and that almost made it worse. "You require permission," she said slowly, "to continue restraining me. To adjust," he corrected. "Or release. Or maintain. Any of it. It's all opt-in once the immediate safety lock passes." She laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. "You have captured me, immobilized me, and now you are asking what I prefer." "Yeah," he said. "That's usually how it goes." "Usually," she echoed. "For you. For us," he said. "Humans. We're big on that." Her tail flicked, then stilled. "Where I come from, restraint is a declaration. Of authority? Of ownership." He grimaced. "Yikes. Here," she continued, "you speak as if it is a service." He glanced at the console. "I mean, technically it is. The harness doesn't care who you are. Just how to keep you safe." "Safe." Again. She shifted her weight experimentally. The clamps followed, firm but accommodating, allowing the movement without granting freedom. It was a strange dance, one she didn't know the steps to. "If I asked you to loosen the grip," she said. "I'd ask how much," he replied instantly. "And if I asked you to tighten it," he paused. "I'd ask why." Her ears flattened. "You would deny me." "I'd ask first," he said carefully. "There's a difference." The system chimed softly, highlighting engagement parameters, all of them waiting for input that hadn't been given. She stared at the invisible holds around her wrists, her waist, her shoulders. They didn't bite. They didn't threaten. They simply waited. "You are very uncomfortable with control," she observed. He snorted. "You have no idea. Yet you fly a ship." "Because the ship doesn't have feelings," he said. "Mostly." She studied his voice, the way it shifted when he spoke about responsibility. There was no hunger there. No thrill. Only caution. Restraint layered atop restraint. "This position," she said slowly, choosing her words, "is intimate." He stiffened. "Is it?" "Yes." "Oh." He swallowed. "Okay. Thank you for telling me." The clamps did not react, but the console highlighted a subtle stress spike. He didn't touch anything. "You may adjust," she added, watching closely. "Adjust how?" he asked. Her lips twitched despite herself. "Loosen. Slightly. Around the chest." He nodded, fingers hovering over the controls. "On my mark, then. Tell me if it's too much. Or too little." "Too much. Too little." She braced for the wrongness of it, and felt instead a gentle easing, pressure retreating by degrees, never abandoning support. Her breath came easier. She hated how carefully it was done. "That is sufficient," she said. He exhaled, relieved. "Good. Good. We're still well within safety margins." "You speak of margins as if they matter." "They do," he said. "That's where people get hurt. When you ignore them." She tilted her head. "You fear causing harm." "Constantly," he admitted. "It's exhausting." The clamps held, firm but no longer intrusive. She became acutely aware of her own reactions, the way her muscles responded not with tension but acceptance. This was wrong. Or rather, it was right in a way she hadn't prepared defenses against. In my culture, she said, those who restrain do so to demonstrate power. He shrugged. In mine, we restrain ourselves to avoid abusing it. The words settled heavily between them. The console beeped again, diagnostic nearly complete. He glanced at it, then back. Once this clears, I can initiate a slow release. Slow release. The phrase sent an unwelcome shiver down her spine. Slow. Gradual, he clarified quickly. Step by step. Prevents injury. Of course it does. You don't have to, he added. If you're not ready. We can hold position. Hold position. She almost laughed again. You would continue to restrain me, because I asked? Yes. Not because you wish to. No, he said firmly. Because you do. She was quiet for a long moment. The clamps remained patient, neither tightening nor loosening, awaiting instruction like well-trained assistants. This is backwards, she said finally. He smiled faintly. We hear that a lot. Her gaze softened, confusion giving way to something more dangerous, reconsideration. Humans were not what the galaxy said they were. They did not seize. They negotiated. They did not revel in control. They documented it, regulated it, and asked permission before exercising it. The console chimed, diagnostic complete. He didn't act on it immediately. Ready when you are, he said. She closed her eyes, taking a steady breath. The restraint held her, supportive, considerate, infuriatingly kind. She had expected pain. Instead, she found herself deciding when to let go. And that choice, offered so casually, unsettled her more than any force ever could. The pilot waited, hands deliberately off the controls, as if touching them too soon might break whatever fragile understanding had formed. The clamps remained engaged, steady and patient, their quiet hum no longer ominous but anticipatory. I can begin the release, he said. Slow and controlled. No sudden loss of support. She opened her eyes. And if I say no? Then we don't, he replied without hesitation. We hold. Reassess. Adjust if needed. Adjust. The word had followed her through this entire ordeal, changing meaning each time it was spoken. She exhaled, long and measured. Begin, she said. Okay, he said, voice careful. Initiating disengagement sequence. Phase 1. The clamps loosened almost imperceptibly, pressure retreating in layers rather than all at once. Her body reacted before her mind could stop it, muscles tensing in anticipation of what didn't come. The system compensated immediately, supporting where she wavered, never letting her feel unbalanced. She let out a sharp breath. You call this release? Yeah, he said. You don't want to just drop someone. That's how people get hurt. Humans are very afraid of hurting others, she muttered. He snorted. You have no idea. Phase 2 followed, the restraint easing further, freedom arriving in increments rather than a rush. Her arms lowered slightly, circulation returning with a tingling warmth that made her shiver. You're reacting, he noted. Observation or concern? She asked. Both, he admitted. The system flags sudden changes. Just checking in. Checking in? Even now. She shook her head, a small, incredulous sound escaping her. Where I come from, release is abrupt. It reminds the restrained who allowed it. Here, he said. It reminds them they're safe. The clamps disengaged around her wrists, hovering close without touching, ready to re-engage if she stumbled. She flexed her fingers slowly, marveling at the absence of pain. No punishment. No lesson carved into nerve endings. Just care. Phase 3, he said. Lower body support reducing. The pressure at her waist eased, then her legs, the system adjusting to her weight until she stood on her own. The final hold at her shoulders lingered, not as restraint now, but as reassurance. You can lean, he offered. If you need to. She didn't. She stood tall, steady, free. The last clamp released with a soft click that sounded almost reluctant. Silence followed, heavier than before. Well, he said finally. You're clear. She turned, facing the direction of his voice. That is all? That's all, he confirmed. No hidden steps. No surprises. She laughed then, a full, incredulous sound that caught him off guard. You trapped me by accident, restrained me with excessive care, and released me only when I agreed. Yeah, he said. I'm really going to have to write that up. She took a step forward, then another, testing her balance. The ship felt different now. Less like a cage. More like a shared space. You realize, she said, that my report will confuse many people. He grimaced. Bad confuse or good confuse? Existentially troubling confuse, she said. Humans will be reconsidered. He rubbed the back of his neck. We get that a lot. She studied him, this strange creature who wielded control like a fragile object, afraid to hold it too tightly. You could have taken advantage. I know, he said simply. And you did not. No, he agreed. That, she said, is why you are dangerous. He blinked. I'm not sure how to take that. You should be proud, she replied. You restrain yourselves more than you restrain others. The words settled, heavy with implication. Somewhere in the ship, the clamps powered down fully, their task complete. She straightened her clothing, smoothing fabric that had never been wrinkled by force. Your restraint device, she added, tone carefully neutral, is impressive. He laughed, embarrassed. It's just standard issue. That, she said, ears tilting forward, is the shocking part. She turned toward the exit, then paused. One more thing. Yeah? If I had struggled, she said, it would have tightened. Yes, he said. To keep you safe. And if I had asked you to stop? I would have, he said immediately. She nodded once. Remember that. Others will ask you why humans are trusted. He watched her go, the echo of her steps fading into the hum of the ship. The incident report would be long. The repercussions longer. Somewhere across the stars, stories would circulate, of humans who trapped without cruelty, restrained without domination, and shocked an entire species not with pain, but with the uncomfortable power of consideration. He leaned back in his chair and sighed. Worst turbulence I've had all week. The ship chimed in agreement.